Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. This is Ruth Mitchell with the Wholesaler magazine. We'll be starting our program on generational leadership in just one moment. Thank you for joining me today, everyone. My name is Ruth Mitchell. I'm the editor of the Wholesaler magazine, and I'm doing a feature in the July issue of the Wholesaler on generational leadership. We're all about celebrating our Wholesaling 100 listing, which will turn 50 in the month of July. And we thought, what a better way to celebrate that listing than to reach out to the next generation of leadership at the wholesale distribution companies around the United States. With that being said, today I'm excited to be joined by Seth Gordon, who's president of Thrifty Supply Company, a family-owned full-service heating and air conditioning distributor based out of Seattle. Founded in 1951 by brothers Harold and Mo Gorlick, the company has grown over the years and today has more than 90 employees that take care of the company's 11 branches that service the states of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Northern California. Now, 3 generations of family management have been dedicated to providing its contractors with top-notch service and products. The company takes great pride in going over and beyond to support their employees and their career development and personal growth. This is done partially through offering classes through the Thrifty University program and getting the team together every year for the annual Pasco Retreat. I definitely want to hear more about those, and we will. There's so much to talk about. Let's just get started. Seth, welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ruth. Excited to be a part of this. Appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. You know, Seth, the whole series is based upon family-owned, family-operated wholesale companies here. So I know you've worked outside the channel before joining Thrifty Supply a little more than 6 years ago. Can you please tell me about your connection to the family business and the path that led you to where you are today as president of Thrifty Supply?
Yeah, definitely. So we're a third generation family business. Company was founded, like you were talking about, by Harold and Mo in 1951. Harold is my wife's grandfather. So he founded the company in the 50s as a plumbing distributor. And then around 1985, my father-in-law, whose father-in-law is Harold, took over the business. And that's when we kind of quickly converted to HVAC at that point from plumbing. So we're kind of doing the son-in-law thing, kind of this zigzag diagonal family transfer, I guess. And so, I was working for a bank doing stuff on the financial side of things. And my wife and I were living in Charlotte, North Carolina after we got married in 2014. Mm-hmm. And we were kind of talking about, what makes the most sense for us long term. We want to raise a family of our own, where do we want to be living, right? And we decided to be around one of our families long term and decided to be around, her family who's in, the greater Seattle area. So it was, around that time when I, talked with my wife's dad, Steve, and kind of asked him, what is Thrifty? What is, what's the business? What is HVAC distribution? And I remember, I think the first time we were talking about it, we were at a restaurant, and he kind of looks up and, don't know what he's looking at, what he's doing. I've never walked in a restaurant and looked at the ceiling. And then he starts kind of pointing out, all the ductwork and what that leads to, the ductless units on the wall, and kind of going through all this, quick background of what HVAC is and the distribution side of it. That was really exciting to me. I think, I was in a job that wasn't very, it was something I always wanted to do in my previous life. Wasn't something that I was necessarily that passionate about. And it was really more about like living in computers, living in screens. There wasn't really anything I could see or touch, like nothing tangible to what I was doing. And I was, excited for the opportunity to be involved in a business that you could see, you could feel it, it's inside every single building, in the country probably. And so that was exciting to me. And so that was when, we made the decision to, my wife and I both quit our jobs, moved to, to Bellevue, Washington, just outside Seattle, and joined the family business.
What I find so interesting about your path is that you've come into this quite recently, 6, 7, 8 years. Obviously, you've been familiar with the family company because of your association with it. So you actually bring in a fresh perspective on the industry and on leadership. But before we get into that, I want to ask you, can you please tell me what is the company's mission and its core values?
Yeah, so our mission statement is about our customer service. So our mission statement relates to treating customers in a memorable way every time that they tell somebody else how great it was. That's been our mission for I don't know, over 30 years at this point, and I think is consistent with us wanting to make sure that we're treating the customer in a great way, that they're referring us, and then there's talking about how great of a experience it was at Thrifty. And when it comes to our core values, that was something that a couple of years ago, as part of our Pasco Retreat, which we can I think we'll probably get into a little bit more, we ran a contest. We called it our continuous improvement contest, and that's a big focus of ours is how can we find better ways of doing things. And so we ran a continuous improvement contest, which was soliciting from every employee in the company, submit your best idea for what we can be doing differently or better as a company. And so all of our staff submitted an idea, which then we selected the top 5, gave a prize for that, and then had a grand prize for the number 1 idea. Along with that contest, we asked all of our staff to submit that idea and then also submit a core value, for the company, like what they felt was, the most important core value for Thrifty. And we've had a lot of staff that have been with us for, decades. In some cases, I think we just had an employee hit their 40th year, right? So
Wow.
Stuff like that, which is super impressive. And asked for our core values and came up with our list, which is our integrity, our dependability, our commitment to customers, family, appreciation, and then continuous improvement. And I think family is a huge one. I think we refer to our customers as the Thrifty family of customers. We refer to our staff and our Thrifty in general as the Thrifty family. And it was fun to involve all of our staff in that process of creating and defining our set of core values. So I think a fun way to do it, and that's a big part I think of our culture, is that empowerment and getting soliciting feedback hopefully from everyone.
Was it difficult stepping into the role as president, considering all things considered, coming from outside the industry? You worked for the company for 6 years, but there's so much history and legacy that goes along with the family company. Was it a challenge when you stepped into the role as president?
Yeah, I think it's anytime you step into a different role, or there's tons of stuff to learn. I wasn't born doing this job. Didn't really no formal training, so it's a kind of a question of, okay, this is what's expected. This is my view of what's expected. This is the company's view of what's expected, and then how do I figure out how to make sure that I'm meeting those expectations. And educating myself, right? So there's the day-to-day, but how can I make sure I'm, I guess, learning and becoming the leader that, I want to be, or that our company, wants me to be or needs me to be. And I don't, it's not I don't think it's ever a finished process. I think that's a big thing, is that it's, constantly learning, adapting, and finding new or better ways to lead. And I'm still very, like you kind of alluded to, Ruth, like I'm still very, very new to this. And so, there's things week to week, month to month that I'm learning. I can't believe that a year ago I thought that, it should be done a completely different way. And then you learn something new, whether it's just, talking with employees or with other distributors and finding, different ways of doing things. So, there's been a lot of, certainly challenges. I think, I was talking to someone recently that was describing, family business, and they just said it's high risk, high reward, and there's a lot of benefits to it, but it's also, family business, like the folks that you're, working with day to day and then having dinner with, on the weekends or whenever. There can be challenges if you don't necessarily see eye to eye or have the same opinions. And I think that's probably typical, right? I think a lot of different generations just naturally think differently. And I think it's, navigating that is tricky, no doubt about it. So I think there's, been lots of challenges, but stuff that is fun to work on. I mean, whether the family dynamic is a little bit trickier to work on, because obviously there's a lot more emotions and there's more than just, the day-to-day business that's involved. So that's, and then it involves, from, my wife's perspective, she's not, she does work for the business part-time, but she's not in the office every day. And so it's tricky when, you might come home from a day of work and you want to complain about a coworker or a boss that is just your father-in-law, or so, and I'm sure he's going home doing the same thing. It's not, it's vice versa. So, just not seeing eye to eye necessarily with those things is difficult, but it's fun to be working on that stuff.
Well, not seeing eye to eye, that has its benefits as well, because usually what comes out of that is growth in one way or another. Seth, describe to me your leadership style.
Yeah, I think, like we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, it's, I think it's evolving, right? I think I hope it's kind of an approach of trying to constantly be learning and finding a better way of being a better leader. I think for the most part, like very democratic, want to be soliciting feedback from people and getting, more or less staying out of the way of for the most part and letting people do their jobs, but make sure that there's a certain guidelines or vision that we've laid out, and then making sure people are staying on track to that vision. So not getting in the weeds too much, and it's really empowering our great staff. We have tons of great employees that do an unbelievable job, and for the most part, I'm trying to just stay out of their way and keep all the different kind of areas of the business departments and people integrated. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of, I guess, my approach. So,
stepping into the role as president, and I've got to imagine that, you're extremely well-rounded within other industries as well, and leadership and roadmaps. So from where you sit right now, how do you see changing the company's roadmap or the direction of where it might go that, quite frankly, they might have not thought about doing before?
Yeah, I think, we've always been a great, sales organization, very sales focused. My background on the financial side, I spent the first 10 years of my career basically living in spreadsheets. And so like, that's more of what I've been accustomed to, is more of, I guess, the financial or the operational side of things. And so, we have this great sales culture. How can we also pair a great operational culture as well? And so that's one thing that I've tried to focus on is, at least initially, utilizing my skill sets to try to, okay, let's what's missing, and then let's add to that, and trying to complement the already great sales part with the operational, side of things. And I think that's been a big goal of mine, and I think it's a big challenge, but we're working.
You're definitely working on it. Yeah. In the intro, I had mentioned about Thrifty, the university that you have, as well as the Pasco Retreat. And I do want to talk about that because it really goes back to empowering employees. And ultimately, when you empower employees and you educate them, the end result is that then is transferred over to the customer service side, and it just makes for a seamless environment and customer satisfaction. So can you please tell me about the university as well as the retreat?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Thrifty University, that's a great Hardy program that we've basically rebranded. So that's Hardy has all these incredible classes. The total count is something like 8,000 or some crazy number of courses, and but it's not really related to HVAC. Some of it could be, just sales oriented, or it could just be, Excel based. We had a lot of employees that were asking us for, courses on Excel. How can I improve in some of the stuff I'm working on Excel wise? And that was a great chance where, we've done Blue Hawk University for a long time. We're, proud Blue Hawk members. We've been with them since, the founding of Blue Hawk. And that's really good courses when it comes to products. So all of our vendors are in there. We've got courses on, ranging, could be, all kinds of different vendors and specifics on thermostats or, whatever other vendors you want to look at. And that's great, specifics for product content. How can we add the other stuff when it comes to the sales training or Excel classes? Or, for some of our branch managers, maybe they want a little more help, reading a P&L, so looking at a financial statement. And so we saw, Hardy had this great offering with those courses. And so that's what we then rebranded as Thrifty University, that we've made available to all of our staff. And I think eventually there's benefits to probably making, and I think other distributors have certainly, done this and done it really well, which is making that available to customers. So kind of comes back to what you're saying, Ruth, about, that transferring with our employees, and then that carries over to the customer. Mm-hmm. And then also maybe we can get our customers involved and some of these courses that might be, just business related. How can that maybe help them run their business, and ultimately that's a big part of what we're trying to do, obviously, like many distributors, is, making our customers' jobs easier. And if an education component is education component probably could and should be part of that. So eventually, hopefully rolling that out to our customers as well. And I guess to add, another piece of that, which comes back to the continuous improvement contest that we talked about. One of those ideas that came from that was a career development program. So we're still in the infancy stages of that, but part of that was, the Thrifty University. Some of it's going to relate to cross training. And then also on the emerging leader side within Hardy, that's something that I've been a part of for a few years, and now going to be starting to roll that out to some of our key employees as well. So how can we obviously be creating ways for our employees to improve themselves, gain new skill sets, and I think Thrifty University career development program, Hardy emerging leaders. Even going to Hardy and Blue Hawk events. I mean, that stuff is just, there's so many great ways of picking the brains of other distributors that I think are just huge to, like you're talking about, empowering our employees and having them grow.
Well, I think that, when you're talking about the empowerment of employees, and you had said that you have one employee or a employee, or probably more than one, that's celebrating 30 or 40 years with the company. Yeah. That ties back to the company culture and what's offered not only within the day-to-day interaction for an employee, but also, they can look and see this company really wants to have me on track for improving. We're talking about the university and other ideas, idea sharing. Was that something that was started under your leadership? The pushing more of the empowerment of employees through the educational opportunities?
I'd say, kind of a combination. I'd say our culture, Steve, my father-in-law has created an incredible culture of empowerment. So for me, it's sort of just building on that with some additional pieces, so we have, I've only been here for a short time. And so employees that have been here for 30 and 40 years, I mean, that's a testament to how things have been for a really long time. And then how can we add to that? How can we, create more opportunities or more, for those that want to be improving in different areas and in more than just maybe products or customer service, what else can we be giving to them? And that's where the, Thrifty University and some other, career development stuff is coming from, is want to just give more of those opportunities and kind of enhance the empowerment culture that I think we've had for a really long time.
So under your leadership, Seth, how do you see changing the roadmap of the company?
Yeah, that's, the first thing really when I first started, this is probably 4 years ago, maybe a little bit before that, was that operational piece, kind of like we talked about, was adding that operations component to the sales side. But I think like my big jumping off point into the business was when in 2018, we acquired another distributor called Black's Wholesale based out of Spokane, Washington. Incredible culture, very similar to our own, very loyal customer base, hardworking, dedicated employees. And we saw a great fit for ourselves in that, in terms of, adding those locations, adding, those employees to Thrifty. And so that was really my, jumping off point to the business. And I think within that, then obviously there's a lot that we've had to do just in terms of, integrating the two companies. So it's sort of, how do we focus on that present of integrating, but then also what's the roadmap going forward? And so that's, one thing I spent a lot of time on last year, during COVID. There's obviously a lot less travel time. Was able to put together like a nice 3-year plan. So it was a very specific 3-year plan for our roadmap from a sales perspective, operations perspective, marketing perspective, and really laid out, a plan for every department, every person, I think, within the company. And then specifically, how are we going to be able to achieve these aggressive goals that we've set, and we've set very aggressive goals for ourselves for the next 3 years. We've gone out further than that as well, not as specific as the next couple of years. But importantly is how do you execute on that? How do you make it actionable and specific enough for each department so that everyone feels a buy-in, feels a part of what it is that we're doing and knows where we're going. And I think that's, a big job of leadership. And, I don't know that I think I'm doing an okay job of it. There's more that we can be doing, and we can certainly be improving on that, of, getting more of that information out there, speaking to more of that, giving more line of sight to our staff for how what they're doing in this moment, leads to this, helps us achieve, the things that we've set out to do. And that's to me, the fun of it is trying to, improve ourselves and kind of achieve, excellence. I like to read a lot of leadership books. I've just finished reading, John Wooden's leadership book, and he talks a lot about striving for perfection. It's like you can never attain perfection. Perfection is not possible, but striving for it is what we should be doing, and that I think is the fun part of challenging ourselves and trying to be perfect and improving. Recognizing that, of course, it isn't attainable, but that there's always ways to improve and do things better. And as part of that, how can we get ourselves to these aggressive goals that we've laid out? So I don't know if that answers your question, but kind of, that's kind of sort of the roadmap or the vision that I, have tried to set is, giving clarity and communicating that to our staff.
Well, I think that, it's exactly what you said. It's that open line of communication between leadership, management, and the full team that ultimately propels you to where you want to be 3 or 4 or 5 years down the line. Tell me, the legacy of the company, that's the legacy of the company can hinder you or can propel you forward. So has the legacy of the company hindered your ability to implement the strategies on your roadmap? Has there been some resistance on that? There's always, when the next generation comes in to lead, there's always a little pushback from the previous guard. But from where you sit right now, how do you see moving forward? Do you see it as a little bit easier or as challenging with the ideas that you have, knowing ultimately it's for the betterment of the company?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think the legacy piece is a huge asset of ours. I think that's a huge advantage that we have, is like the culture that we have, what's been in place for a long time. And then, I think one thing early on that I've learned is that, if we were going to create it from the ground up, we might do it, this way. But we have this culture that's been around and we're used to doing things a certain way. So let's use that as the base and then build on that, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel and kind of do things from scratch. And that's, I think, there's a story. I think it's like Bill Belichick, coach of the Patriots. He talks a lot about. I don't know what the exact number was, but basically he's known to spend like 50% of his time or some crazy number just studying his own team. Whereas like most coaches are focused 95% of the time on focus on other teams and plays, and And Belichick is focused on, okay, what do we do well? Like what's our skill set, and what are our weaknesses, and let's avoid those weaknesses, and let's focus on building plays that suit our strengths. And that's one thing that I think I've learned a lot about is, okay, these are our strengths, these are our weaknesses. Let's focus on the strengths and let's build on those. So let's use that legacy of what's here to get to the next step, to the next level.
I just heard you say legacy, and I know I brought that up before, and I'm immediately taken back to when one of Hardy's annual conventions within the last couple of years was all about legacy. And you have talked about the utilization of Hardy to help empower you, as well as to give offerings to your employees that help move the company forward. How important is that to have that organization at your disposal, knowing that you can go there not only for educational opportunities, but also networking opportunities as well?
Yeah, super important. I've learned so much from Hardy annual conferences where there's the courses themselves or the presentations, and those are great, but the most value, like you were talking about, Ruth, is the networking. I mean, that is the highlight of Hardy events for me, is meeting other distributors, talking, sharing best practices, picking the brain of other people, how they do things. And that's, going to those events, it's like leaving there so energized and invigorated, having talked to other distributors, ask them a ton of questions on, hey, we have all these things that we're working on, and we're trying to think about different ways of doing things. Well, there's a whole bunch of people that have done this, right? And they're a lot of them are at Hardy, and you get to find the people that you really connect with, and then be able to ask them all those questions in between presentations, or at the end of the day over dinner or drinks, and that's incredible. And then those are contacts that I reach out to, and just mentors that I've tried to find for myself that it's so powerful. That's one of the most the best ways that I've learned, and now want to find ways of getting more of our staff to the Hardy events, because we haven't yet had a bunch of our staff there. And now that I see the value and that I've gone through that stuff a couple of years now, I can see that we really need to have a lot more people there. Mm-hmm. And I've seen other distributors that bring 6, 7, 8, 10 people to Hardy and bring a lot through the Emerging Leaders program, which I'm wrapping up in December, and that's powerful. And again, not just for the content itself, but like you said, for the networking, that is the most powerful. And then you've got a problem, you got something you're trying to solve, you shoot an email off to a connection from Hardy or from one of those events, and whether they might not have the answer, but at least you got someone that is also going through it or has similar problems, and you can kind of just share ideas around it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's such strength in peer-to-peer networking, and there's many opportunities within this industry to derive the peer networking. But being part of a group, like you had said, for you, it's Hardy who does provide its members such incredible information takeaways and the connectability. But another form of connectability that I had mentioned in the beginning is the Pasco Retreat.
Yeah.
Can you describe to me, tell me what that's about, and how does it help the company, and also, what are the takeaways from it? Yeah.
So the Pasco Retreat, that is as much of the thrifty culture as anything. So that was founded last year was the first time we had to miss it with COVID, but before that, we had celebrated our 30th Pasco Retreat, which is every year we get our entire company together in Pasco, Washington, which is in Eastern Washington. And everybody gets in usually Friday mornings or usually Thursday night. Friday morning will be our annual golf tournament. So we get all of our employees that want to golf come out to golf for a tournament. We do I forget how many people we had last year, the last couple of years, but huge event to get everyone out there. And we have all our vendors at this event as well. So all of our key vendors, a lot of them have been there for 30 years as well. And a chance to get our entire company together to, one, to bond, and to, all the camaraderie that comes with, being together, for an entire weekend, right? So we'll get there Thursday night, kick things off, Friday morning. And then, Pasco was created by Steve, my father-in-law, and one of the reps that he was very close with. And, knew they wanted to create something that was going to have a lot of camaraderie and a chance to bring the company together, but also wanted it to be educational, right? So how can we, get more information to our employees as well? And so like talked about inviting our key vendors. So our key vendors that once we're done with the golf tournament, we kick off classes that start around 3 or 4 o'clock. Usually I'll kind of give a 30 or 60 minute kind of opening, kind of talk about where things are at for some different initiatives that we're working on, and then we get into 30 to 60 minutes for different vendors, and then that gets done around 9-10 o'clock, and then people are usually finding a way to have fun for the next couple hours, right? So at the bar where there's tons of camaraderie and tons of like we've got 11 branches and people are very spread out, and you develop friendships during but also like Pasco is a huge bonding thing where everyone's talking during the year about last year's Pasco or what might be coming up next year for like we just went through an ERP conversion, and everyone's kind of the balloon is pretty stretched at this point, and everyone I think is really like looking forward. And someone, a couple of people mentioned this to me last week. I can't wait for Pasco. We gotta get to Pasco like this. We gotta get together and blow off some steam and just come together as a company. So, and then Saturday night is a chance for we do what we call our Academy Awards, and that's kind of the night where we're giving out awards to different staff. Steve's created this award called the DWD, and that's always a really big deal. Which is
what's DWD?
DWD is damn well done. I
like that.
Yeah. So we and then so there might be 1 or 2 DWDs a year, something like that, where a chance to recognize someone that's gone above and beyond for our customers, for the company. And so, DWDs, a couple other awards, and then, this nice big banquet dinner that kicks off around, 7 o'clock or so that night. And, we've had different silly things as well. I think for the 30th, we had a hypnotist.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you've ever done that. I was convinced that it wasn't a thing, like no one can be hypnotized, no chance. But of course, I want to be one of the people up there. I want to see what this is all about. And, because we called up 6 or 8 people to be hypnotized. And sure enough, I was in a trance. And
Really?
I couldn't believe it. And there, a couple of employees have got, video of me, dancing like Michael Jackson, because that's what the hypnotist had kind of gotten me into was I was Michael Jackson. And now, all right, now, get up, Michael, and you're going to dance to, whatever Michael Jackson song they had played. So it's a chance to be silly, get together, a bunch of camaraderie and, karaoke later into the night. And just an incredible tradition that is such a big part of our culture, who we are. And I think it's just cool that we've been able to do it for 30, should have been 31. So 31 years coming up in September.
Okay, well, first of all, there's so much to talk about just in terms of this retreat, but I have to start by saying I would love to see that video of everyone that was hypnotized up on stage, because you always hear stories of it can't be done. And this is the first time I'm hearing firsthand that somebody actually was. That's very cool. But what I love most about what you had just said is this speaks volumes about who and what the company is, company culture wise. It sounds like you have an engaged team that is focused on not only learning and education, but also celebrating teamwork, as well as celebrating the individual spirit for those who embrace the going over and beyond, which I know your full team does. But I mean, obviously with the DWD, really celebrating that, which at the end of the day goes back to why you do have employees that have been with you for 30 and 40 years. That's exactly why. That's got to be really neat for you, sitting in your seat to look out and to see this company culture and knowing that you're helping to perpetuate that culture and also take it to the next level? That's got to be it's got to kind of pull at your heartstrings as well as say, you know what, we're on a good path here and we're moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. The culture, it is, it gets the goosebumps going, right? To kind of, think about, I think our staff, and I think we felt this a lot when COVID first hit and things were really, really bleak, and just was super proud to be a part of a team that was rallying around each other, and that's when you could really feel even more so like those bonds and those relationships and the quality of the culture is, when things are good, it's easy, right? But when things are tough, how do we come together? And super impressive and really inspiring to see the culture and the people that we have.
So we had talked about, where you go to be a more effective leader and where do you turn to? And we talked about you going to your buying group or the Hardy organization, I should say, going to that organization and finding the tools to help you lead. But, you can't pour from an empty cup. So where do you go outside of work that you get direction and inspiration to be a more effective leader? Where do you go to fill that cup for you?
Yeah, I think it's super critical, to fill that cup. I think balance is really important and critical. So to me, it's making sure that, just that I'm present with my family and enjoying, our kids and just being together as a family. So it's making sure to carve out all that time and being super present where, it's okay. It's the weekend or the work day is over. It's like I'm not checking email, done with the phone, and it's purely with my wife and with our 3 boys. And so that's like super critical to me, is taking care of our family, being together, enjoying all those moments. And if I'm doing that and I have that balance and taking care of myself, just whether it's eating well or a workout, something like that, is just like all those different pieces help. I think they all help each other, right? So if it's super present with the family and not doing work on the weekends, and then you can come back Monday morning super refreshed and be really present, work-wise. And so that's kind of I guess the short answer. And then we're a big baseball family, and I just started coaching t-ball, and that fills the cup pretty quickly too. So stuff like that is super fun and just really important to be doing, having that balance, doing more than just the work side of things. It's critical to have that, for me, to have that balance.
It's funny that you say that. I've had a couple of these conversations with other leaders in the industry here. And that's the very first thing that they say, is that it's very important to establish a work-life balance. And I think that maybe previous generations, that wasn't at the top answer. So it's interesting and refreshing to see that, yes, everybody's going to give 150% at work and you're going to go and run hard, but it's also important just to stop, shut down, shut off, and take care of yourself and your family as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna end our conversation with this question. Now, taking COVID outside of this question, in the past year, what's the smallest change that has made the biggest impact within the company?
Yeah, smallest change that's made the biggest impact. We've had a lot of big changes. we just went through an ERP conversion. So yeah, smallest change. I mean, I think, from like a patient standpoint, I mean, that's one thing, like having gone through that ERP conversion, I think everyone has been on edge for a long time, and understandably, people are working 60 or 70 hour weeks.
Right.
And I think, the biggest or the smallest change has been just trying to focus on patients in the long term, and rather than trying to, necessarily, like you were saying, 150% every day. Well, let's give 100%, and let's not try to, blow up this balloon anymore to the point that it explodes. So I think, have tried to, just more patience, and maybe we get a little bit less done today, but we'll get to it eventually, and
We'll
just
get
make
there.
sure that we're getting more of the buy-in from everyone, and just focused on the long term rather than just trying to get the most out of every day.
I know I said that was my last question, but I do have one more. And if you don't have an answer at the top of your head, that's fine. Is there one piece of advice or one motto that you live by, or a piece of advice someone had given to you that always sticks in the back of your mind?
I don't know. It's hard to, I guess, give them, I think everyone has kind of a different motto that works for them. For me, I really enjoy just trying to improve, and whether it's improving, myself, or a brisket I'm cooking, or a cheesesteak that I just started making cheesesteaks, trying to come up with all the different ways of improving that. And to me, I enjoy working on things and trying to improve things. And I think this isn't necessarily a quote that I live by. I think there's a lot of different, things that kind of guide people. But, one was that I came across was that, there's always a better way of doing something. We just haven't thought of it yet, so which is fun to kind of think about, because that means that everything is open for improvement and for, to be worked on. So I think that's kind of a cool, that's one of my favorite quotes.
I like that. I definitely like that. Well, Seth, it's been wonderful hearing the story about the company and everything that your leadership style and where the company has been and where it's growing and going. I look forward to seeing you hopefully in person sometime this year as things are opening back up. And thank you for spending the time to share with the Industry Channel about your leadership, your challenges, and how the company is moving forward. So thank you for joining me here today. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Ruth. Yeah, thanks to you and the Wholesaler. And hopefully next time I see you, I can share those hypnotic or hypnosis videos, and we'll look at the Michael Jackson stuff. Yeah.
I can't wait. Seth, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ruth. Yeah, appreciate it.